Auto insurance can all seem the same until it comes time to use it. So don't get stuck paying more for less coverage. Switch to USAA Auto Insurance and you could start saving money in no time. Get a quote today. Restrictions apply.
USAA. What's up, Detroit Kool-Aid crew? This is Oakley. I'm here with my buddy Hughes.
What up, though?
We are here talking about the first round just completed of the NFL draft, and we're here to talk most importantly about number 20, pick for the Detroit Lions, center Frank Ragnow. Hughes, what's your first impressions? What are you thinking?
Big Frank, man. He's kind of a surprise name that came out, but, after looking over it and, obviously the offensive line was something we needed to improve on, and they did so. And, this guy's ranked pretty high on a lot of people's draft boards. It wasn't a name that, we kind of threw back and forth earlier today, but, I think it's definitely a good pick. Still a lot of guys out there, but I'm pretty happy with this one.
Yeah, man, it's funny. Like, you could go a lot of different ways with this pick. Was it a reach? Is it a great pick because it's the trenches, like we always talk about? Like, I know we didn't talk about him directly, but he definitely was kind of in my radar. It was just, he didn't pick up steam till late here in the draft process about going late first, early to mid second. So, I'm on board with the pick. I think it protects our quarterback. It solidifies our O-line. Hopefully helps our run game. Guy's a leader. He's a captain. Just somebody that can shore up that O-line, which we've been calling for years. So, I don't mind it, especially with that number 20 pick. Frank Ragnow, unless he comes across major injuries, is not going to bust out. So he's going to be there, and you're not going to have to worry about him off the field. So I'm good with it there.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, old Godfather Mel Kiper's comparing him to, Alex Mack and Nick Mangold, is some other first-round centers that were taken. They're just the anchor of that offensive line, and I think, he's definitely an upgrade over Travis Swanson. This either allows him to play center and Glasgow to left guard or vice versa, so it gives some versatility up front and, gives us pretty good solid 5 offensive linemen, which will definitely help us out in the run game and also protecting Stafford.
Yeah, I just saw online that he got compared to one of the Martin boys. It was coming out of Notre Dame that's been really good. And then I also read that he mostly played at center, but he also played some right guard. So I started thinking, like, is this a play to you take him now? He can play. I would like him at center and just leave. I mean, Glasgow's mostly played left guard, and he seemed to be okay there. So I kind of like to plug him in at center, but I like it that if TJ Lang has any more lingering injuries or maybe, depending on how your roster shakes out, maybe in a couple of years, Frank moves over to that right guard, depending on where your roster is at that point. So it's nice that he can probably play all 3 inside spots. I read, too, that he even said, I guess at the Combine, that he can play all 5. He said, I feel fine. I haven't played tackle really, but I think my feet and my length and all my stuff can project out to tackle. So, I mean, he thinks he can play all 5, which I'm sure, again, is just another added bonus that if they need him to and they ask him to, he seems to have confidence that he could do it. Now, I wouldn't want him out there if I had my choice, but what other options and stuff were on your brain or like, we're heading into round 2 here. Kind of talk me through that of where you were at with 20 and maybe where you're going to go after this pick now that it's on the board.
Yeah, I mean, at 20 before the pick was made, to me, everything pointed to Landry. I thought that's definitely who they were going to go for. If it wasn't Landry, the 2 offensive linemen that I thought it could have been was Daniels or Hernandez. I feel like in most draft boards, ours included, we had them ranked higher than Frankie Boy. But, again, he filled a position, and obviously, some of Matt Pat's comments, they really like him. They like his blue-collar attitude. He's just going to come in and be a tough football player, and I think that's, we always talk about building the team from the trenches out, and, they did that.
It's a nice change to say that and then start to do it the last couple of years rather than say we're going to build the trenches and then take wide receiver, tight end, quarterback. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like they're following through on this master plan of just getting, as you just put it perfectly, football players and, blue collar tough guys. I mean,
Yep.
that's what we've said. Wow, it'd be great to have one of those kind of teams for Detroit, and then we go build trying to be the Rams of 1999, 2000, whatever it was. So,
right.
Now what you said though, so here's a couple points. What's so crazy about the dang NFL draft is, so like you said, not only us but others have the board stacked similarly to how you read it off. And I'm looking at it now. We've ended round one. Harold Landry's still there. Willie Hernandez didn't get picked. Darius Geis is still out there. The top tight end didn't go. James Daniels, a lot of people's top or second ranked center, is still sitting there. Mo Hurst got passed by. Josh Jackson, a top corner, didn't get in there in the first round. So I understand there's only 32 picks, but that's a good 10 players I basically rattled off that were in a lot of first rounds or were pretty highly ranked that are still sitting there.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, if you would have told me before the draft started that there'd be 3 running backs going in the first round and then told me that none of them would have been Darius Geis, I would have said you're crazy. The fact that 3 of them went and he wasn't one of them was a surprise to me. He's sitting there on the board, obviously, for somebody at 2. And Landry, too. I mean, a lot of people, some people had him going top 10, top 15, and, he's now on to the second round. So that was kind of a surprise, too. There's a lot of good players on the board.
And it's crazy. Let's go back to Landry for a second. So this guy in 2016 and 2017, basically led the nation in sacks. Mm-hmm. He plays a premier position, both outside backer and 3-4 or rush edge, no matter how you want to treat him. If you want to put his hand in the dirt or you want to just blitz him from all over the field. Yeah, he's not the biggest guy in the world, but his production's there. And then in 2017, he was hurt. Right. So unless there's a lingering medical, I don't get why all these teams would just be looking past him, because I started the clock on him at about 10, 11 and thought, surely by 20, or when we didn't take him, I'm like, okay, within the next 5, he's gone. So for him still to be there, it just really doesn't make a ton of sense. Now, those other guys, guards, even running back, just the way the NFL is, it doesn't shock me, but Harold Landry just sitting there sticks out like a sore thumb here in the first round. I mean, even the other guys are just kind of like, they'll go high in the second, no big deal. But I just don't get it. So.
Yeah, I don't either. And this draft's kind of different than most that we've seen. I mean, realistically, Bradley Chubb and Marcus Davenport. But besides those, I mean, there really wasn't any other true defensive ends that went in the first round. They're mostly interior guys with Payne, Tavon Bryant, and then a lot of outside linebacker types. So there really
wasn't. Which is another reason, though, I don't get it, because there wasn't a plethora of DNs, and this guy's still sitting there. So I don't know. I mean, he's not going to get there to our second rounder, but I mean, we got to turn our focus to, I don't even know who would be there on an edge or interior, but Rashad Penny, I want to go back to him, the running back. I love the player, but I don't really get. Remember, I kept mocking running backs to Seattle.
Yeah.
But I was doing that because when they had all their success, they had a big bruising back, that could score touchdowns and could kind of move the chains and give them some attitude. Rashad Penny's an incredible runner of the football, but everyone hates him on third down pass protection, and he has some other flaws and stuff. So I just don't know why they went there with a guy like that when Geis is there. Geis, to me, is much more of a Seattle back. Or I've been calling the last couple of years for them to turn it over to Russell Wilson and just get him some bunch of receivers and top tight ends and just sling it all day and get him an O-line. Right. So that's what they were going to do with them. But now they're in the middle ground of, are they smash mouth, or I don't know what they're doing. So that was, I had Penny in late second type. So to take him where they took him just seemed like one of the, other than the Pittsburgh safety, that was kind of one of the bigger shockers of the round.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I thought that he would slip to third round territory. I thought maybe he would be, the 6th or 7th running back off the board, not the second. But, obviously there's something about him that Seattle really likes and thinks he's going to fit for them. So, I guess
he's good. Really good. But that's one of those where even if he's really good, did you extend yourself too much by taking him where you took him rather than trying to wait it out?
Mm-hmm.
But they got their guy, so now he just has to be really good to justify it. But we'll see. So like we said, and this happens every year, where you're going into round 2, looking at the board, going, "Wow, why is Dalvin Cook there? Why is this guy there? Why?" You know what I mean? Like, it happens all the time. So I'm kind of looking at my Lions targets the way I had them stacked, and so we've already discussed Landry. He's at the top. Willie and Geis are still there. Josh Jackson, Harrison Phillips. Then you get into that territory of, okay, Isaiah Oliver's a corner. Do we want to go that route? Do you want to roll the dice on Arden Key? And then we start getting into would the tight end slip, or I don't know. I don't see many interior edge rushers, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few defensive ends who could be like late second, third round type guys with, Sam Hubbard still out there, Lorenzo Carter, possibility. I know, we like him kind of in the third round. But yeah, DT, I mean, it's pretty thin. It just depends on how people have Mo Hurst ranked as far as with his health and whatnot, because, after Mo Hurst, you got Harrison Phillips and Derek Nottie from Florida State, and, your ultra sleeper pick, Nathan Shepard, down there. So there's not much, front four wise available. So it'll be interesting to see. I mean, with Landry, Arden Key, Sam Hubbard, Lorenzo Carter, those guys, I mean, there could be 4 or 5 guys that could go.
Right. Yeah, no, those are some good names. I'm looking again at the DN board now, and there's 2 names you didn't name that jump out to me that I've read a little bit about. Chad Thomas out of Miami. He's 6'6", 275, and I guess he was the number 1 recruit coming out of high school. A lot of potential, just kind of like, can you get it out of him type of guy. And then this Duke, I can't pronounce the last name, but he's from Wake Forest. He's a defensive end, 6'4", 270. He's got that kind of size similar to a Ziggy, a little bit shorter, that I've heard some good things about. And then we got that Deshaun Hand sitting around too, who's kind of like an end/DT who can move around. Not very athletic, but produced at Alabama. So,
yeah.
I think with those names you read off, and then, that there'd probably be somebody there, but, I would have definitely liked it to get Landry, and then when we start working our way down that board, I feel like we could have had a Colby Gossett or some of these guys I like interior. This Wyatt Teller, he's going to go 3 rounds later, but I heard he's a really good guard. You know what I mean? I think if we could have flipped those, I'd have been a little bit more happy. But we'll have to see. We'll probably be shocked when we get to 51 or whatever and see who's there. It'd probably be somebody that we thought would be long gone.
Yeah. No, I think so too. I mean, like I said, cornerback wise, Josh Jackson and Isaiah Oliver are really the only ones that would interest me in the second round. So I don't necessarily know if that will be a spot that they look at. But another guy that I like too in the second round could be Rodney Harrison from Alabama as a safety. I know that we're pretty deep there, but I think he's a pretty solid player though.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to figure out about our roster construction. Like I always say, take best player, but as Derwin was flipping, I was going, man, if we've got, if we got Gover, I started running through all our guys, even like all the way down to Killebrew, and I was saying, man, you add another safety, like you're gonna have to boot somebody or give up on somebody type of thing. But I guess if they're better than who you currently have, you definitely have to do that. So, I like Harrison as well. I don't know, man. We'll see. What are you thinking about if Nick Chubb's there in the second round? Are you considering him?
I would think so. I would consider him, but I guess it just depends on who else is there. I think ideally, a couple of those defensive guys that we named would be my first pick over Chubb. But if a lot of those guys are gone, I would look at Chubb, and the guy that I like more than him is Ronald Jones too. So if a lot of those defensive guys are gone towards our pick in the second round, I would look towards those 2 guys. Would probably be my second option. Would be looking at running back.
Yeah. The reason I ask is because if you don't take him there, I think he's gone, and then you're into that kind of no man's land, the 4th or 5th round for running back again.
Yeah.
Do we want to roll the dice on Walton, Kelly, Bolahaj? You have to make that choice, I think. in the second round. What's your thoughts on Arden Key?
I don't know, man. I mean, you know, at the start of the draft process, he was up there as one of the top defensive ends, and as everything went by, he kind of slipped back a little bit. I mean, I don't know if there's off the field character stuff that people are concerned with, but I mean, you know, he's got the talent. It's just a matter of, you know, if he can put it all together.
Yeah, my biggest thing is I'm not in any interviews, but you know, quitting on his team and all that. I just think if they think that he can play, then I think he's got to be considered in the second round. If they interviewed him and said, this guy doesn't care about football or he doesn't have the mental, you know, to play in the league, then I think he's just off the board completely, basically. So,
yeah.
But he's kind of in my middle set of the DNs that we already talked about. So,
yeah.
You know, I'm just looking over to see if there's anybody else really that worth considering.
Another guy that kind of intrigues me a little bit is Malik Jefferson from Texas. I know that we, you know, signed a couple, you know, our outside linebackers in free agency, but I feel like he could be somebody too that would help us out on the defense. Yeah,
he's really big and athletic, but I remember hearing something that he really doesn't know what he's doing out there on defense, you know, as far as diagnosing. He doesn't have good instincts at all, which I think Quinn and Patricia want football players that, yeah, they got to coach him up, but they don't just want an athlete that doesn't have a clue of how to just diagnose a run play and get on it type of thing. So
yeah,
I've kind of dropped off on him a little bit, but as far as size and speed and his age and all that, he's definitely kind of a prototype, but I'd be surprised. I mean, Darius Leonard is more of a guy. He's a little bit smaller, but I know they interviewed him and stuff. I think he's a better backer if that's what they want to go with, or just another outside backer that can run and tackle. They've also talked about these safeties like Jesse Bates and who's the other kid, Jordan Whitehead out of Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Those are, like you said, and Justin Reed is still out there. Remember, like the guy in Locked On NFL Draft, he was dying to have him for the Steelers, and the Steelers go take some guy that I want to hear his reaction to that one because that was surprising to say the least. But I mean, if those safeties start slipping, they may be one of the better players on the board that you have to consider. And the nice thing about the Ragnow pick is that I was like looking over my board and going, man, like center, guard, offensive tackle are basically completely off the radar now.
Yes.
You don't even look at them for the next 5 rounds.
No.
Or at all,
yeah,
you know, at all. Yeah. So it's like, we kind of could have took other positions, but we basically shored up our O-line for the next 3 years, I'd say, to some degree. I mean, obviously we're going to have injuries and you have to have depth there, but there's no more like, we might be able to get an interior tackle in the 5th, like, or a guard, like, we're good. We're good now, completely good. So that's exciting, just kind of put that to bed. And then, like I say, man, O-line protects your most highly paid quarterback, and if these guys can move people in the run game, I mean, that's going to be huge for who we already have and whatnot. So I think good pick, safe pick, even if it was a little bit of a reach. Like, you know, I know he was projected to go to Cincy, like in a lot of mocks I read right after us. Cincy was either going to take Ragnow or Willie Hernandez in a lot of mocks I saw, and they ended up taking Billy Price, who's injured and is going to have some issues there, but is still a good player. So obviously they had their eyes on that type of spot. So I think if we pass on Ragnow, he goes the next selection anyway.
Yeah.
So I'm good with it. Bobby Quinn, Matt Patricia, I like the first pick as a tandem. Just follow up tomorrow with an impact player. We should be better than we were yesterday.
Well, let me ask you this. I know this kind of goes against every draft strategy you ever have, but is there a guy that's sitting on the board right now that you would, you know, trade up to get in the second round?
No. I mean, you got to be an ultra special talent for me to trade up, especially when I have no draft capital at all. But you don't even have any ammo to do it. But, I mean, let's say Harold Landry continues to slip and they liked him, they just didn't like him at 20. I mean, maybe if he's within 5 picks, you can give somebody like your 4th and go get him. But I just don't see anybody that makes any sense. I mean, if I had 10 picks, I'd be willing to move up sometimes in the first round to go get a premier guy. But after that, it's basically trade down or just make the pick type of thing.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
So we'll see how it shakes out, man. I think it's fun to recap it right after. I'm curious to kind of go on DetroitLions.com and kind of see what they're saying, but also get some other opinions across the board. I'm sure positive and negative, it's all about what they do on the field. But, me and you as Lions fans, we're going to be positive regardless on it for the most part. But, I'm sure there's some people that hated it, but there's people, too, that don't know not many people know guards and centers in football. And like I said, this guy was a late climber. He's a captain. He's a big, nasty type guy in the middle, and we'll just build off that. So, we'll check the feedback and then see how tomorrow goes and come back on the Kool-Aid Cast with another recap.
Absolutely.
All right, big man. Well, sounds good. Take it easy, and we'll catch you tomorrow. Thanks, everybody.